All right, Dali's favorite games. That's me. Now I have a bottle of wine here from 2 years ago. The nice, remember those holiday wines from like 2 years ago? Let me pop this sucker. I'm gonna take sips,
That you don't.
sippy sips.
As I say no.
Nope,
Nope.
you don't.
Nope. Not me.
This is stuff that people kept giving us, and I'm like, I'm gonna drink it. Trying to get rid of this stuff. Dry January, starting off great.
I only drink Pingus. I don't drink nice.
um, uh, we mentioned it before, but this has been a heck of a year for games, right? It's the stuff that I played this year. Again, thankful for the Steam Deck, thankful for the indie stuff on the Switch. I played everything like portably, and thankful for this guy, surprisingly enough, this dude, because now I can actually play PlayStation games again. Because, as I mentioned before, our PlayStation's upstairs and family time is downstairs. So my gaming habits have changed over the last few years based on what I have access to. So that also impacts how I ingest games and then what I get out of those games. So I'm going to start with my honorable mentions. I have a few. Mouthwashing. I mean, you guys have said the same thing. Swansea. God, this jerk. Hey, Jimmy. You learn to kind of hate almost everybody in this group, and then you pick sides, like you said, really quickly. Fantastic aesthetic. 2-hour length. I mean, it was what kicked off the love of this genre for me, and since then I've been gung ho on this. But just a fantastic game, and it's affordable. And I reviewed it earlier in the year, and I can't stop thinking about it. Still, that psychological horror is just well done. It's a great game. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Forgot this game. Very easy to forget this game with
Yeah.
release. Because it kind of came and went, but it's so solid. It's so good. Another game that we had issues with, right? We're like, oh, this game looks like crap, blah, 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 blah. The aesthetics.
It played very bad at PAX when I played it.
But then I played on the Switch, and it's just such a fantastic Vania game with great characters, great action, just fun. Good. It's like $15, like brand new, and you can get like the collection with all the whatever for next to nothing. So yeah, great game. Make more of these. The old Prince of Persia games. Arranger, loved this.
Yeah.
It's a 4-hour game. It has elements of Zelda in there. It has elements of like, it's a puzzle game. It's just that sliding board, and you can get stuck, but then you can't get stuck because you can actually skip past puzzles if they're, if you kind of get frustrated. But it's just a really fun palate cleansing experience. It's not the deepest story. But what I mean by that is, let me rephrase it. It's not, I don't connect to these characters as much as maybe I would have wanted. And that's just me personally. But, everything about this game is super accessible to anybody that plays it. And I think people can just enjoy it. It's great from that aspect. And then Zelda. This was the classic Zelda feel that I wanted, with the mix of the new, thrown in there. The opening scene here when Zelda is looking out in front of the world. I think that was fantastic to me. You could see all the trees that look exactly the same because it is on the Switch. But it beautiful game. It is the right amount of challenge, which is not too much. I don't want too much challenge out of this. I wanted to be able to enjoy it, kind of soak everything in. I want to find everything. To me, a Zelda game is great when it doesn't bar me from like trying to find and experience everything. And I know this is a mainline Zelda game, but there are aspects of this that really kind of break the Zelda format, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, really cute. Okay, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket. For the same reason you had your trading card games company or the shop simulator. The reason I just love tearing open packs. It's simple. Honestly, I have not been playing like the game. I just like opening packs, and I think there's just fun. There's just
He's
fun aspect of it.
addicted.
It is very addicting. I've
the,
gotten all the stuff from Mythic Island already, and I've only got a few, and that's all just free, right? It's all the free stuff.
I got the Fist of the North Star Alakazam today.
Oh, nice. And I'm, there's going to be down the line. I mean, you can already imagine them doing some cool. They're going to go through all the Pokemon cards and stuff, but you're going to hopefully see some cool stuff that they do with like collaborations and things like that. We'll see. And Unicorn Overlord, just this was in my top 5, and I bumped it out for a reason, for a different game, because it is a refreshing take on classic, like the strategy type stuff and tactics, and it's just such an excellent view of that. And it really, the developers, this is Vanillaware, right? The way they attack genres is so refreshing every time, and they put their own spin on this genre. And like, I love Final Fantasy Tactics, I love Ogre Battle, but this functions and breaks that mold in completely new ways, and just phenomenal characters. Like,
and you can marry them too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it has it's like Fire Emblem, but with a there's actually stuff happening outside of the battles that are worthwhile.
Yep.
All right, favorite games of the year. I'm gonna try to get through these. I'm gonna take a sip after each one. The animations, I'm sure, are not gonna work, but whatever. So excellence in simple. These are not in any specific order, but I tried to categorize them for what they meant to me and what I think they mean for gaming in general, and I'll try to work through it. Excellence in simplicity, excellence in depth. And you guys brought it up earlier. This game is the beginner's roguelite, and yet at the same time, it is the most addicting game I have played in decades, potentially, and that is Balatro. I think Balatro is a stunning achievement in game. This is a game, and we talked about it when I first reviewed it way back at the beginning of the year, but this is a video game that I can play and my parents can play, because it's that simple to understand. It's a card game, but then the depth gets you, man, and you start putting those hours in, and hours and hours. I own this for PC. I own it on my Mac. I own it on my iPhone. I own it on my Switch, and I'm going to give away this copy that we got from our friends at PlayStack this weekend as well. So it is. I've never had a game hit me and scratch the itch like this has. I mean, at first I thought, yeah, it's like Vampire Survivors does that job really well. This goes beyond it, because Vampire Survivors you kind of get done with. You're like, okay, I got it, cool. Balatro is still a card game at its core. It's still solitaire mixed with poker, and you can play it over and over again until you get something that that works well. We're getting some fantastic comments from all of
I think I think the cool way to put this game is like, it feels like you're building a Magic the Gathering deck the whole time, even though it's poker, right? Like, all the things you said, I agree with, even though it's not on my list. But like, I 100% agree with you. But like, it's like, yeah, it feels like you're playing Magic, but like from the deck building side of it, it's so interesting from that point of view.
It is, and the fact I love is the randomness of the jokers that I get make every run completely unique, and more so than other roguelikes that I've played. Like, I've played roguelike, whatever, where I always circle back to the same type of build. In this, if I start getting pairs, I'm just gonna stick to pairs. If I'm not getting anything, I go to high card and I play with the jokers, and I start going to, like, I'm just gonna do all spades on this run. It is that level of depth, and I talk about accessibility a lot. This game is so incredibly accessible. I just don't like that original tutorial is kind of weird to follow along when they were first learning it, but then all you gotta do is put like 5 minutes into this, and you're like, I get it. It's cool. Okay, purity and joy. Joy is something that I cherish so much when it comes to experiences. I live off of joy. Well, I didn't take a sip.
Dali with his Webster defines joy as
Webster defines joy as the love. No, I'm always looking for sparking joy, for smiling and being able to put aside the world and getting an experience that just makes me happy. They're not always the best experiences, but they always leave me feeling good about myself. Ted Lasso, there's music, that Christmas music. This game is the Ted Lasso of video games. Astrobot.
I knew it.
I was going to say 1,000 X resist. Damn.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because,
joy.
because playing this game, and it does suck that the videos won't play. Sorry, I'll put them over this. Playing the game just leaves me smiling. Like, there are issues with the controls, like the 3D, like trying to line something up still doesn't work as well as Mario 64 or Mario 64 and Mario Odyssey still have the weight that I like of a platformer, but Astrobot, what it did with just everything is cute. You hit a character and they do a cute animation spin. The dog, you mentioned the dog, like rescuing the characters. Like I played on the Portal.
You finally got that thing working, which is nice.
Yeah, well, still only works within the house. I took it with me on vacation. It would not work.
Oh no, no.
But people do. Anyways, it really does. I do feel connected to PlayStation when I play Astrobot. Like having the controller and the screen on the controller.
You feel like Tim Dog when you play PlayStation.
This is Sony. Like Little Big Planet tried to be this years ago. But it didn't. It just didn't survive. Every Astrobot experience could be the same thing over and over again, and there's been 3 Astrobot games, and they're all good. They're all fun, and this one is it's just a joy. The visuals aren't perfect. There's a lot of clipping. There's a lot of like really rudimentary design stuff, but that's okay. That's not what Astrobot's trying to be. Astrobot is really just trying to make you smile, and man, it was so good for that.
There was like a short or something on YouTube where somebody was pointing out just like some of the great design choices of Astrobot. And
Astrobot
one of them,
is design, yes, exactly.
And one of them was when you go into the level where you have to get on the armadillo to roll on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He says everyone's first response is to go in there and just immediately wail on the armadillo and knock it away.
Yeah.
And there's a sign over there, and no matter where you punch it, it beelines for the sign and smacks it back to you because they know your instinct is to go in and just immediately punch the armadillo.
So one thing that you mentioned, Zach, was they learned from and I think JJ, you said it as well. Yeah. This is the evolution out of Mario. This is the sequel to Mario 64 in that the way Nintendo approaches things is we all talk about that level 1-1 in Super Mario Brothers where your instinct is to jump over the Goomba and but you hit the brick, and that's when you find out, the power up comes out of it. That moment is this. The armadillo moment is this. It's like my instinct is to do this, and the developers were smart enough to let us do those things, and those are our learning behaviors. Like they teach us subtly. There is no tutorial. It's just like go play. And I thought that was so good, and just such a wonderful aspect. And that's joy to me.
Yeah, the design language is really awesome. Because like all the worlds are different, but there's similar mechanics across some of them. So it's like, oh, I see this, I know what to do, but then they add a layer on top of it, and they keep building on top of the mechanics as the game goes through. Like it never gets stale. There's no stale levels. Everything is just like, I don't know. It's just all thrill.
It really is. Yep. All gas, no brakes. So speaking of layers, this next game is the most layered game that I have ever played.
It's like an ogre.
Yes. Onions. No, just kidding. I have this as my breakthrough impact choice because we talked about it before. This is not a game. This is an experience. This is art because artists came and approached it, and they used the tools they had. It's not like this was like, EA or BioWare or Nintendo or Sony or anybody working on this. This is a group of folks who wanted to tell a very important and impactful story, and they did it using. It's a walking visual novel with a little bit of action, but the action is very particular. Like when you're stringing motions across, like you showed the part with the planes, you're kind of moving across, literally
cool.
grabbing stuff. I'll tell you my experience. When I first started this game up, I was like dumbfounded, and I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. I don't know what's happening. They kind of throw you in this mix, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. Then you get into the aspect of you slowly start to capture memories and going back and forward through memories and start to realize why Iris, who is like that, she was like, that's the all mother, is you're learning her faults as you're going through this. And then you learn, like the very opening section is with Jiao. I think that's how you pronounce it. And that's the other girl you showed that Iris calls her fat. And why do you call her fat? Why do you hate her? Well, you uncover the whole reasoning behind it. And it's not a lot of text, which is really wild to say this. They leave so much to interpretation in this game, in this experience, that as you play it, it's like walking into a buffet. I'm going to use this analogy. Walk into a buffet, and there's so much stuff out there, and how you approach every ingredient is your own thing that you're pulling out, right? So I went in this the first time I played it. I'm like, okay, it's an interesting story. It's about there's viruses, there's aliens, there's clones, and then there's like, oh wait, then there's stuff about a diaspora. There's otherism. There's family. There's female stuff. Female issues. There's religion. And it's the layers just keep going deep and deep and deep and deep. And every time I think about this game, I pull a whole new layer out, and a whole new thing affects me. 10 hours worth. And I feel like if anybody gets through 2 hours of this game, they're going to have a completely different thought experience than I will or somebody else will. And you go through the full 10 hours, and you're left with something that's deep and emotional and impactful, and it's never been done before in this way. It's really just a completely open to your interpretation story, and you're going to everybody's going to pull something out of this in their own way. And I thought that was an astounding way to tell a story. This is like, I guess in a weird way, it's like open world storytelling. I don't know if you can call it open world narrative, but it's the idea that all the information is there for you to approach it in your way and pull what you want out of it and make those connections you want, and you will get impacted differently. And I thought that was just such a marvelous way to approach it. It's almost like they did that first, and then they said, we have to build a game around this. Let's not build too much of a game, because you don't want action and adventure taking away from the experience they're trying to give us. So I thought that was wonderful. Just an astounding experience, and it really more people need to play it. I think if there's any game that anybody plays this year, this is it. So
speaking of how this game unravels, as you were talking, I just kind of hit another thing in my head. Mm-hmm. But like how you're saying, like how she speaks to Zhao, and how we kind of we learn about why she did that, but the way we learn about it is by talking to other characters in the future, and we learn aspects of ourselves from other people, and it's just I don't know how they pulled it off. It's crazy.
It makes you reflect on your choices of words that you've had in life, because you're seeing yourself, like you're one of the clones of this person that made her own choices, and you are supposed to follow along because this is the All-Mother. Everything the All-Mother says is right, it's good, and it's true. So whatever choices she made were correct. But then you start seeing them. It's like you start seeing your choices from a different perspective, and you're like, oh crap, why did I say that? And where's identity in this? And where it's just
it's so hard to talk about it because like that's only the first.
It's not
not even
90 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's the first like 90 minutes of the game. Like there's so much.
There's so many points in the game where you're like, now
wow.
I see. And you're like, oh. And then you get to the next part and you're like, fuck, I didn't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I get it now. I understand this teenager. And it's like, no.
You don't.
Because then you have to learn about her parents and their trauma and how their trauma got dumped onto her. And it's like, okay, this is like, and then it just keeps spiraling out of control. And it's a 10-hour like crash and you have to watch it.
When do we get to enter the spoiler zone?
When we would do spoiler cast. I want to get through this because we're already at like almost 2 hours. This next one is why I got into RPGs in the first place. Dragon Quest.
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but
it is.
Haven't played
Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest. The original Dragon Quest was the Dragon Warrior, the first real, like the first classic turn-based RPG I ever played. That was the free cartridge I got from Nintendo Power, and because they had a couple million of them sitting around, so Nintendo gave them away. Thank you, because that did affect the original turn-based RPGs of Dragon Quest, Dragon Quest 1, 2, Final Fantasy. That was open world to me because that was the first time I was able to develop a character the way that I wanted to develop them and discover their limits and my limits in the process. And Dragon Quest 3 was like, I played 1 and 2 and Final Fantasy, and I played Quest, Ultima, Quest for the Avatar. But what Dragon Quest 3 did, the original one, broke my mind in terms of the job system, ideas for recruiting characters, and really pushing the NES to like levels never before seen when it came to telling this big giant world. And then there's like that reveal, 90% of the way in, where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that this is in this game. And then you're like, now I wonder how they're gonna do the sequels or the prequels to this. So I love it so much. It rekindled everything that I remember from that era. So I play this and I'm just in love with RPGs, like classic turn-based RPGs. And this is, for as much as we talk about, Final Fantasy VI being the inspiration for the HD 2D phenomenon, that may be the inspiration. This is the reason that phenomenon exists. Like, the game is beautiful. They're putting Dragon Quest in this mode and making it beautiful and giving me the pixels and putting the story in there and putting the audio in there and the soundtrack. It's perfect. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It's going to be another 80 hours for me because I love to just continually grind. Like, the whole idea of grinding. Some people are turned off by it. Sure, go ahead. I love it. That's the whole purpose of Dragon Quest games, is that it's the RPG grind. Finally, I think you should leave. Is what I thought this game's name was, but really the game is called Thank Goodness You're Here. This is just the video I'll play. The silliest hour and a half experience I've ever had. Maybe if that long. It's a goofy game with incredible art. Every character is charming. There's really only like 20 characters in this. Every moment is just silly and goofy, and it's British humor that has to hit perfectly. But I am a huge fan of British humor. I mean, I watch like
it's a PBS game. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, it's a PBS game. Like, I've watched The Office, but I've watched What We Do in the Shadows, which is built off of that off the concept of goofy characters thrown in strange situations, and then you add in this like the strange situations are things that are like the whole purpose of this game is this dude shows up at a town. He's a tiny little guy, the little yellow guy in the middle, shows up at this town, and for no reason, people just want him to do things. Like there is no reason for him to do it, but they're just like, hey, my drain's clogged. Can you help me fix it? Okay. How do you know I'm a plumber? I don't know. I'm just gonna do it. How did I fix your drain? Well, you have to hop into. You have to go up on top of the house and jump into the go down my fireplace. It's just the silliest stuff. And there are these little moments that just make me giggle every time, like going down the fireplace. It happens like 3 or 4, 5 times in this game, and I laugh hysterically louder and louder every time it happens because there's this poor dude. Every time you go down the fireplace, you leave ash and soot in his living room, and he gets more and more frustrated that you keep coming down to the one point. I don't want to spoil it, but again, the game's an hour and a half. You come down and he's ready for you, but boy, does that take a turn, and it's just so good. I love this. This is the game that came in at the last second because I got it on the Switch eShop sale like 2 weeks ago. I bought it, or no, a week and a half ago I bought it, and I played it, and I couldn't stop giggling. And this is the game that I put on just before the show started because I'm like, I can't believe I waited to play this. This is Dali style. This is dad joke humor, British dad joke humor. Just so funny. Go play some games because they're just, it's wonderful. Games this year were so varied. I loved it. And those are my games of the year because we're all family.